Hey, folks, thanks for tuning in to the BAM podcast. This is our occasional series, the IGDN Spotlight. And let me quickly play my contractually obligated intro music. One sec. And that lovely musical beginning assures you, gentle viewer, that this is a high quality, professional podcast with only the finest farm to table, ethically sourced, gluten free, geeky conversation for your podcast listening pleasure. And today we have Zosh M. Ballinger from Darkheart Games. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. All
Appreciate you
things
joining us.
considered.
Huh?
All things considered, yes, pretty good.
Oh, I just noticed your shelves behind you. Is that your?
Just
That,
just a few. Yeah, no, that's not a backdrop. That's my stuff.
oh wow! What are they? That is pretty cool. Is that? I think I see some graphic novels.
There's a lot of graphic novels. There is an awful lot of White Wolf.
Hmm.
Fair amount of D&D. I started playing when I was 10. Um,
Hmm.
Actually, our public school in rural Ohio had us playing D&D because it was the perfect meld of math and creativity, and I never really looked back after that.
Yeah, that's
But
cool
back in
stuff.
the
Yeah.
Stone Age, I would run Vampire the Masquerade LARPs and World of Darkness LARPs at like Origins and Gen
Mhm.
Con, middle 90s through the 2000s.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I was really into werewolf about that same time frame. I ran a werewolf Wild West campaign. I might have been the only guy running that particular setting.
I mean, Werewolf was fun. So I was very much Vampire the Masquerade, but of course everybody wanted to play all of the different things,
Yeah.
and they really weren't meant to like play nicely together. But I did a lot of homebrew. I love homebrew.
Hmm.
So my chronicle, which was set in Lovecraft's Providence in the
Hmm.
1920s, had werewolf and vampire, and there was a heavy wraith plot line that tied in with the Giovanni, and it was just generally like a lot of fun.
Yeah, the '90s were an interesting time. I kind of miss it sometimes.
No, I kind of looking back, realizing that like we had no idea what was coming.
It's a different world. Hey,
Yeah, no, it really is.
let's talk about your game. Soul to Keep is a horror tabletop RPG for two people. It's a duo game with some creepy as hell cover art. Just look at this. Wow. And I made a tiny URL because it's easier to say, and I'm a consummate professional like that. tinyurl.com/soul to keep will take you right to the Kickstarter page, which is launching on Tuesday the 4th. So coming up very soon, right at the beginning of Zine Quest.
Yeah, no, I'm at the like almost at the top of the roller coaster and ready to go. Wow!
Yeah, I like running Kickstarters. On the other hand, it kind of dominates my mind for the 15 or 30 days that I'm doing it. So it's it's fun, but I also hate it. I guess is a good way to say it.
I'm in the
So
same boat. I have not run my own. I have helped other people's with theirs. I've been like the kind of like leading face for a couple of them, and it is very labor intensive. Like you've kind of got to be on the whole time.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I know what I'm getting into.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, do you mind if I read your blurb here, or would you prefer to set it up for us?
I will.
Okay.
Play as a paranormal investigator or the tragic child ghost possessing them. As you scream, weep, and fight in one another's heads, you strive to move toward opposed locations in a creepy old house. Appeal to your opponent's sympathies, terrify them with grisly phantasms, or manipulate their emotions by excavating their deepest memories. The struggle ends with only one of two outcomes: death or escape. Who will succeed? The base game will release as a PDF. Do you want me to bother with the rest of that?
Oh no, it's we can just talk about it. So
Yeah. That's more the nitty gritty of like,
yeah,
how are we doing this, and why are we doing this, and what's it going to look like?
yeah. I was more interested in just starting off the show talking about the elevator pitch. What the game is about, what your inspirations were for it, how's it played out. So it's a duo game where we are playing through a possession, and sounds really really intense. Can I ask what your inspirations were for this?
So my day job is hunting ghosts on television with people like Jack Osborne, and I worked on Paranormal State, Portals to Hell, a whole bunch of other things. So for real, a lot of what I do is like wandering through places that are allegedly haunted and explore the hauntings. Now, people get really hung up on the concept of possession with that. And as someone who's been doing that for 20 some years now, and I
Hmm.
write a lot of nonfiction about our beliefs and our practices and things around that, what really appeals to people is the story, is the idea. And I can't not turn things into a game. Like,
Hmm.
I've been playing role playing games since I was 10.
Hmm.
And the more I thought about just the stories people make up for themselves about these locations, regardless of what might have happened, I wanted to capture that intensity,
Hmm.
and the psychodrama that we see in the proposed idea of this struggle between the person who, rightfully inhabits the body and whatever force may be influencing them, which is usually in the paranormal shows, especially anything with Zach Baggins, supposed to be a demon.
Hmm.
But I wanted to make it human.
Hmm.
It's more interesting if it's not trying to hurt somebody necessarily, but is desperate itself. Like, this is a child ghost. They have a tragic backstory, as tragic as you want to make it to be,
Hmm.
and they just want a friend.
Hmm.
Their idea of getting a friend is fairly terrifying because, of course, you need to come and become their forever friend and die at the bottom of the well with them. Uh, but in between, you have all of this rich storytelling you know, for the investigator. What drew you to this location? What caused you to trigger this experience? For the ghost, why? And who are you? And who were you? And how do you wear your opponent down or appeal to their humanity in order to get out?
That is really interesting. I have a lot of questions, but I don't want to get onto your day job and waste my time. Um, this is cool stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm flipping through. I got three images here. It would be amiss if we didn't compliment your artist because these are really evocative pieces. Who did these for you?
That is Enoch Duncan. They go by Odd Oblivion.
Okay.
And I saw their work and I was like, I need this. I need this because it feels like how I want this to look in a person's head. This sort of like, everything is a little hazy around the edges. There's just a level of uncanny. I mean, like, all of their work is just a traipse through the uncanny valley. Faces coming out of things and like shadows morphing into figures.
Hmm.
So yeah, we worked with that. They did that art over the summer last year.
Nice, nice. What was the playtesting experience like for this? I'm guessing you need to really get people with the right level of buy-in.
Yes. So all of last year was hitting up various friends in the industry. I don't want to name drop, but like, I do want to say, and she's given me permission. Banana Chan was super helpful when I sent it off to them, because their feedback and them passing it around among their group of people helped just make it a more intense experience. Like, one of the challenges with doing a duet game is I don't want anyone to be the forever GM. I want this to be something that has enough guardrails and enough structure that each player can simply immerse in the experience and play their character. So there's this sort of push-pull dynamic of going along a room track, and you have these opposed locations. You start off in the nursery where the possession happens, and as the investigator, you're trying to get to the front door and onto the front porch and basically out.
Hmm.
Where the ghost is trying to draw you further into the house, to the core of their haunting, where their body resides.
Hmm.
And getting the feedback to like hone how many rooms are enough to have an immersive experience, but not so many that it just drags on. And then also building in extra rules, like one that I felt was really necessary based off of some of the feedback was just, if you really want to give in, and the other person has made enough of a case, rather than going through the mechanics of it, just role play out. You know what?
Hmm.
All right, you win. Take me to wherever the end game is. Um, Bob Freeman of Occult Detective was also super helpful. He was playing with his son Connor. They went like all out and did like their own bespoke map of the house, and actually will figure into one of the super stretch goals. Because I want, if people are really excited about this, I want to give Bob the chance to do his alternate version of the game, which had a lot more mechanics that make it feel a little bit more like a Dungeons and Dragons experience, where there's a lot of like powers and things that are triggered back and forth.
Okay. Now, the Bob Freeman I'm aware of is in Lionsgate. I'm guessing this is a different guy.
Different guy. Bob does Occult Detective. Pretty sure his website is occultdetective.com, I believe.
Okay, cool. Nice, cool. So what were some of your inspirations in terms of other games and movies and books that?
Oh,
Or
well,
did this
let's see. I mean, well, Stir of Echoes, both the book and the movie, is one of the things with a haunting that gets into your head and doesn't get back out. Obviously, paranormal television is a big influence as well, because, I mean, I work in reality TV, but I also recognize people aren't necessarily watching it for the reality of it. They're watching it for the good scare, for the immersion, for this sort of like inserting yourself into a found footage experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I drew a fair amount from that. Every creepy kid ever is part of the little lost child ghost. In some respects, I wanted to lean into really familiar tropes with that, so you have a firm launch pad to then make each character somebody that like really speaks to you. Current things, there were a couple of things that I drew from Kids on Bikes. Just sort of setting up a location and that rapid fire back and forth as all of the participants go around the table and give a little piece about like who and how and why and what's the backstory of the location, so that this collaborative experience like really unfolds.
Nice. Well, we've got the Kickstarter starting in just 3 days. Well, let's talk about the stuff we mentioned briefly at the beginning. What are the reward tiers?
So, I mean, the absolute basic thing is help me make it a PDF, just release it as such. Obviously, I've already paid the artist for a bunch of stuff. The next tier, the physical tier, is just printed out as a book. And the room track is something, one of the things that's important for me, it was why D&D was really useful for me as a kid. You can play the game with minimal stuff. Like you can have lots of stuff if you really have the money and the investment, but the room track is something that you could just literally write out on a piece of paper, or in this case, the cards that represent each room that Enoch was kind enough to illustrate. So producing those and including those in like further tiers and deluxe sets, and moving up into stretch goals where we have different locations and settings and characters that people can choose that are pre-generated for them. I've got some fun guest writers lined up for that. And I don't know if I want to like spill the beans on some of the names, but like they are people that people would recognize, both from horror writing, the paranormal, and of course games.
Can you give us just one, or we'll give them tickets?
Cassandra Caw, who folks might recognize as the person who wrote the Laudna tie-in book for Critical Role.
Oh, okay. Nice. That's a good get. Sweet. All right, so higher tiers have the printed book and some of the ephemera, the cards and whatnot.
Yeah, and the highest before we get to stretch goal is this sort of deluxe thing of, it comes in what looks like the sort of found footage file that you would get if you were part of a paranormal investigation team, and then has a whole bunch of ephemera, little postcards and newspaper clippings and things that help build a setting and give you an immersive experience with it, and of course the booklet and the location cards.
Oh, cool. Oh, this sounds awesome. I'll definitely be checking it out when you guys launch. Well, this sounds great. Just for anyone who is listening to us on iTunes and can't see the banner scrolling across the screen, tinyurl.com/sold to keep is where you can check it out. Launching on February 4th, just 3 days from this recording. So check it out. Are you guys running for 2 weeks or for the whole month, or what's your plan?
We're gonna go for the whole month. Just you know,
Mhm.
hoping. I don't know. This is not my first Kickstarter that I've helped with, but it is going to be my first solo. Like I am doing this, and I mean, there's so much going on in the world that I'm like, I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm going to try.
Mhm.
Like, gonna try.
Well, cool. Well, I wish you the best of luck. I want to ask you so much stuff about your day job, but that would totally be out of focus from what we're doing. So I'll be definitely keeping an eye on the campaign. Folks, please back it. Looks like it's going to be a cool game. Zosh, thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you. No, this has
Yeah,
been delightful. Thank you.
no worries. And we'll catch you next time on the BAMP podcast, folks.